Okay, we can get started. I'm calling to this meeting, the CIP meeting, for August 11th, 2025 at 6:30. Just so everyone knows, this is advisory only. And can I get a motion to approve July 14th meeting minutes?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
All right, and then that passes, that's what I say? Okay, that passes. All right, moving on to presentations, we have Dave Woolley, and you are going to present about the Department of Public Works.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joining me this evening is our consultant group, Weston and Sampson. To my right is Daniel Tenney, and also supporting us as well will be Michael Richards?
No S.
No S, okay, get that wrong, and Matt Doyle. And what we're going to roll through with you tonight is essentially a year-long effort of taking a total comprehensive look of the entire property where the DPW is housed on High Range Road, and develop a feasibility study for spatial needs analysis and the overall property and functionality to what would be, if this were to come to fruition, this would be the first facility for the DPW. So, first map you see here is the general laydown area of the entire property. You have the existing garage that was built in 1970. 10 years ago is the employee facility towards the bottom of the map there along the wood line. And then 11 various out structures that we have of trailers, used sheds, and things of that nature to store a lot of our materials. And then two salt sheds that were built in 3 different phases. The first one was early 80s, the second addition to that one, and then the larger one with the canopy section was built later on, closer in the 2000s. So that's your existing site. Some pictures of it, you can kind of see that the circulation of the property doesn't work all that well. We've got some challenges with the fact that all of our equipment is outside. Some of it is undercover, but nonetheless is still, exposed to all of the elements: rain, snow, sleet, whatnot. Extreme heat is just as bad for this type of equipment on the hydraulic lines and what have you, UV rays and whatnot. So the building in the top left corner there is the one that was built about 10 years ago now, and has a couple offices in there, a small locker room, break room that you can see in the upper right-hand corner, small little kitchen area, and you can see the tight quarters of the locker room. So we're already kind of bursting at the seams within 10 years. A couple years after this building was built, they added 2 employees to the staff. And I am housed there now as well, and we are in the process of onboarding or interviewing for a deputy director who will be joining us down there shortly as well.
So Dave, how many people work there in your estimation?
Every
out of that
day
building?
there's 14 of us at
14?
this site, with an additional one to join soon.
Okay.
Yeah. So the top left corner there is the garage, if you will, a single bay garage. It is a pull through. However, the door at the rear of the building is not large enough to allow the larger equipment to pass through. So a lot of times we're pulling in and doing the work and then having to back out, because you can see in the photo in the top right, the door is smaller. Some of the 1 tons and things like that can pull through, but very cramped, tight quarters. So if we're in the wintertime working at the back of the garage near that overhead door, and then we're washing equipment at the front, you're blasting salt and water all over the area where the mechanic is trying to work on sensitive equipment. The lower right corner, if you will, shows that's our parts room at the top of the stairs. So that is problematic in and of itself, just carrying parts up and down. It's very confined. It's not, we're not allowed to store too many things up there, especially parts that are extremely heavy. We don't want to be carrying things up and down stairs like that. Alongside, to the left of the staircase, is our crude waste oil burner that we use to keep that building tempered correctly in the wintertime. And then you'll see a room that has been kind of converted to some degree of where we keep all of our flammables, oils, grease detergents and things of that nature. But this building has no fire protection. It doesn't even have smoke detection. So another major concern. So the top left photo there illustrates our sand salt mix bin. And it's an old fashioned, nothing too pretty pole barn. And the unfortunate part of that is it really only holds a little over a couple 100 ton of the salt sand mix. So just about every event, we're having to mix up that product out in the middle of the yard during the event. So it really is not a very good way to run an operation when you're out of material and you're trying to process it in the middle of it, especially where the sand pile is behind that building and not undercover. So it has all the rain and snow and sleet that gets into the product that we're trying to then use. We used, some of the canopy to put some of the smaller seasonal equipment under, at least keep the rain off of it. And in the middle of the yard, the lower right corner there is just a very crude attempt at a detention basin, I guess. Water flows into it, sheet flows into it, and ultimately when it overflows, it just bleeds across the parking lot and runs off into the woods. So there's really no treatment there. There's no oil and grease separator from when we're washing the trucks outside the building, and it kind of flows over into that area. So these are some of the things that we really identified as a necessity to alleviate some of the challenges of that property. And then you see the employee parking area. That's actually a pretty good photo, believe it or not, but it illustrates quite clearly that when the employees, after they work long hours of storms and whatnot, they're walking out through mud and ice and sleet on the ground. And, so there's obviously concern for employees that are very fatigued at that point when they're going home to make their way to their personal vehicles.
I'm talking about safety.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I think if our town hall parking lot looked like that, we'd have some other issues. So, I mean, I don't see why we should be in those types of conditions down there either.
So that wouldn't meet stormwater regs, that little stormwater?
Absolutely not. No. So these next slides, what they kind of illustrate is all those out structures that I referred to at the beginning of the presentation. And you can see some of my concerns there where the trailers are propped up on, in one fashion or another, but certainly not an engineered pier of any stretch of the imagination. And you can see where the employees, make attempts to try to keep things undercover for a variety of reasons. And but getting in these trailers and wrestling around large tires and whatnot is of concern. They're extremely old. They're not well ventilated. There's no lighting of any kind in any of them. The lower photo there, that shed, I believe is an old shed that I want to say came from the police department way back, is what I was told. So we use it to just put a lot of materials that we order by the pallet load to put in there, like ice melt and some cement and concrete mix stuff. You'll see the container there that has the American flags in it. That container actually was over here at Town Hall, and it houses a lot of various things that you don't really think about that we use for different events that go on around town. And so I moved that at least down to Public Works and freed up a parking spot over here when parking's a challenge. And then in the lower right, you'll see that's our above ground fuel tank. Above ground tanks, while they kind of get you away from the regulation of having things underground, they're very problematic. They'll gel up in the winter. You don't have a lot of capacity to them. You lose power with the pumps and whatnot. We did put in a kind of a backup generator that we worked out a couple years ago, but nonetheless, it's in order to fill it, you can hardly see it, but there's a ladder that you have to traverse up it. So when our fuel companies come in, they have to climb up that, and makes for difficult situations.
So, sorry, before
yep.
you move on, I
Yep.
just want for everyone to notice the top right photo.
Yeah.
As a budget committee member, we all went to the DPW and took a tour, and this by far was the most alarming about safety for me, and many others. it's up there precariously. So I just want to make that a little mental note.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I agreed, and and we've been keeping a real close eye on that too, and we're perhaps almost crossing the threshold where we're going to have to take some immediate action and end that and come up with something else because it's not a good situation. And there are many more slides like this, but in the interest of time, we kind of shortened up the presentation on this, but I've done previous slides before with the state of the DPW to really illustrate the challenges that we have down there. The operational inefficiencies is massive in nature. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to move into the part of the presentation that explains how we went through the process of evaluating, well, okay, we have all these some of these are pretty obvious in nature as to where we shorthanded, but how do we then now arrive at the spatial needs that we have to have? So I'm going to turn it over to Weston and Sampson to kind of walk us through that a little bit. So, Matt?
Thank you, Dave. Could you advance it one more
Yep.
time? So I'm going to give a quick overview of kind of, like Dave said, the programming that we took, we conducted as part of the feasibility study here with Dave and his team. So to start off is we did start with the staff interviews. We went up with Dave for a day and his employees, and we met with them. And we, if you keep advancing there, they'll pop up. Thank you.
There you go. That one right there.
Thank
Middle
you.
one.
I'll just go all the way to the end here. So we, talking with them, we went through staffing, programmatic needs, operational requirements of the facility, site elements. And on the right here is an example coming out of that, those notes. So, the top is kind of the general notes and feedback we got from them. But on the bottom here on the chart is we go space by space for the anticipated elements of the facility, and we discuss them, getting their feedback on requirements, size requirements, how they plan to function in that space. And it's really about understanding the operations and, making sure that understanding what works well for them, what are the needs, what are some areas that are problematic. So it's really kind of a information gathering for us so that we have really the background understanding of their operation, since Dave and his team know it the best. In addition to that, we did tour the site. We went through each building, understanding, again, space by space, what the existing conditions are, any deficiencies in them, anything that's working well as all these site elements that Dave just walked through.
We did not go in the trailer.
Glad.
We looked in.
Yeah, me too.
So coming out of that, is really then taking that information and producing these. The first thing we do is user group analysis. So this is an image of that chart, and really what it is a breakdown of all of the intended users of the facility. So we want to make sure we have everybody accounted for, understanding what division they're in, what type of, if they're an admin employee, workforce, and then further breaking down, do they require, an office space, a workstation? It also allows us to give us a count on lockers, anticipated muster room, and parking requirements for staff. So again, it talks about the offices and workstation, again, and locker room and parking counts. So that really makes sure that we've accounted for everybody that we intend to put in a facility. What we also factor in is any future growth. So with talking with Dave and his team, we try to identify any areas, any divisions that we see future staff. We want to make sure that a facility not only is going to work for them in the present, but also into the future with growth with this new facility. So this really summarizes, everybody that we intend to have in the facility.
So you're looking at moving engineering over there at some point in time?
That's something that we've entertained towards the end of the phase. That would be a last phase thing. To answer your question a little bit more clearly, too, you asked about how many people are there. So right now, there's 14 of us. But then during winter events, we'll have in 3 temporary employees that come in, and then also usually another 2 to 3 contractors as well that come in. So that's another 6 people at the facility, so upwards of 20 plus during any kind of emergency event. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. So another piece that we try to pull out of that is the fleet inventory. So again, working with Dave and his team, they provided us with a good breakdown of all the equipment and vehicles that they currently have. And what that does is we then put it into our system, in our model, and we are able to identify the type and model of it, the size of that vehicle, what type of, is it equipment, is it a vehicle, and then its storage needs. So this chart kind of has each of those elements, and then with the storage needs, we identify, should it be stored inside? Can it potentially be stored under canopy? And also if any elements can continue to be stored outside. And what we have to go along with this is, in our model, we are able to build out elements that are the size of the vehicle. And what that allows us to do is then, as we get into floor plans and layouts, we're able to have those with their identifying mark, so we can show where each piece will go in a potential layout. So it allows us, as we move into design, we can make sure that we've accounted for every vehicle and how we want to organize them best. So, and from there, then we jump into the space needs assessment. So this is, again, an image, a couple images coming out of that. And what we do is we break down the facility into the various groups. So we have kind of admin areas, employee facilities, shop space, fleet maintenance, wash area, and then vehicle and equipment storage. And that's kind of what the different colors represent on this. And then within each of those groups, we go space by space, and we list out the anticipated elements for each of those and size them accordingly. And to go along with that, we do what we call a room data sheet. And that just helps to kind of basically give a plan and 3D view of those spaces to show, kind of give you some context to the sizing of them. So in addition, after we size them, we do apply an area grossing factor that accounts for things like structure, ductwork, et cetera, within the building. Then also apply a percentage for circulation for hallways, et cetera. And that gets us to a gross square footage for each of these categories, and then at the bottom, a total facility size. And on the next slide, so these are the room data sheets that I was referencing. So for each of those spaces listed out, we have one of these plans sheets, which has a plan and a 3D view of the space. And again, these are generic at this point. They're meant more to just give some context to the sizing of each space and what is anticipated to go in that. And as we move into a final design, these may morph slightly, but they're just, again, it helps to have a visual to each element within the facility. So with that space need, we then have that gross facility size that we're able to then kind of use as a basis to look at the site and develop conceptual site plan. So I'll hand it off to Dan
Thank
for
you,
the
Matt.
next. Thank you.
Excellent. Very good. So taking these pieces, and as Matt explained, these are really diagrams at this point. This is not what the final design is going to look like, but it does give us an accurate sense of the approximate size and general contents and other requirements for furniture, equipment, mechanical and electrical services, and that sort of thing. We then are able to pull them together into blocks, basically blocks that represent the major 5 or 6 components: the admin space, staff space, shops, vehicle maintenance, vehicle wash, vehicle and equipment storage. Those are the big ones. And we can start to arrange those on the site to see how this program might actually be implemented at the High Range Road site. So this is a general look at, this was, I believe, our phase 1. And the phases are really a thought of gradual implementation over a series of years, depending on some logistical issues, depending on budget issues, and the needs of the town. This could be built all at once, or it could be built in phases. The advantage of a phased approach is that it will essentially allow continued occupancy of the existing facility while new space is being built. There's always going to be a little bit of juggling back and forth to make that work, but the site is big enough to allow that, with the existing salt sheds providing some kind of, obviously salt and sand storage, but also potentially swing space. And the existing shop garage being left in its present form for the beginning. But the biggest piece of it, and you can see at the bottom of this, is the vehicle and equipment storage and the vehicle repair shop with some additional administration and staff space added in. So it's really the lion's share of the project in the first phase, and that's really driven by the operational needs of the department. It also would include most of the site development, particularly with grading and stormwater involved, because as Dave pointed out, the stormwater situation is interesting. There's a duck pond in the middle that fills up and overflows, and that's, we think that was an antenna foundation for the old guidance system into the Manchester airport, because it's right on the line of the runway. So that was taken out and filled up. So it does kind of function, but again, compliance and good environmental stewardship are an important part of this. That contributes to just the general quality and safety of the facility.
So
So-
before you move on, so sorry, on the very top, it's just so small. Can you read that? I can't read
Oh,
it.
I'm
Zoom it in.
sorry. Yeah, these are quite
You
small.
can- you can
Yeah.
zoom it in.
Oh, can you?
Zoom in on the bottom.
The very top structure
Put the
there is the
control on the
existing
keyboard.
salt sheds.
Scroll the wheel.
There's also a
You're
thing down
teaching
here.
me, thank you. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So the pieces in gray are all existing buildings. The larger kind of U-shaped building with the big box at the bottom, that's almost all new, except for the one slightly white portion heading up the page, which is the existing administration and staff building. So we're leaving that as it is, but we're adding a connector to the new building and an additional chunk of admin and staff space to the north.
Dave, do you anticipate heating the vehicle storage shed, if you had one?
Yes, that's a key component to, getting the longevity out of the equipment that we're trying to preserve here. It's one of the largest cost, paybacks that we're looking to by having them inside.
And
Now, it's not, we're not keeping this at 72 degrees. It's
understand,
going to be essentially a cold storage type of facility. But yeah, there would be heating. We haven't gotten into any kind of that designer discussion yet, but yes, that is the concept.
Would you have any guesstimate as to the additional vehicle longevity you'd get by storing them inside versus outside?
So,
10%?
Excellent
20%?
question. You want to,
Sure. Mike, you want to?
Mike, you want to field that one?
Yeah.
That's something we've looked at over many years.
Yep,
It's a very definite improvement.
yep.
Just to set the stage where we are right now, so our vehicle replacement program essentially is just set up by age right now. And as we approach that 10-year mark, we start evaluating, can we get another year or so out of it? When I got here, we had a lot of years of deferred. In fact, this year is one year where we most likely won't have to be replacing a large piece of equipment as we're approaching budget season. So let the cat out of the bag a little bit there. But I will say that most of the trucks, once they approach that 10-year mark, they're in dire straits here because we don't have the ability to wash them appropriately or more frequently. They are all stored outside. And I'll just leave it at this. The last truck that we just got in to replacing them now is nearing $250,000. So it's paramount that we start preserving our fleet and taking care of it a lot better than our current, method of operation.
I
So,
think that's just a key component of the
Yeah.
discussion.
and Mike and these gentlemen can test that a little bit.
Yeah, so we did a case study many years ago, but the principles still apply. We had a town that had acquired 3 new vehicles. They only had room to store one of them indoors, and that vehicle lasted at least 3 additional years in service. But in addition to those 3 years, the first 2 trucks that were stored outside, they were just sold off for scrap. There was nothing left of them. And in their later years in life, they spent, to Dave's point, a lot of time in the shop, a lot of downtime, et cetera. The one vehicle that was able to remain in service lasted at least 3 more years, and it was actually sold at auction. So there's a significant financial benefit to keep them indoors.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And there's an operational benefit as well, because, if you think of what it takes to get a dump truck started in the winter to fight a snowstorm. If it's been stored outside, it's covered in snow and ice, it's cold, it may not start well. It's dangerous, actually, to clear it off and make it ready for use, and the time that takes staff is considerable. I mean, whether it's 20 minutes or half an hour, that's a lot in the context of storm response. And starting up that cold vehicle is tremendously more wear and tear than starting up a vehicle that's kept at 50 or 55 degrees. So there's safety, there's response time, and the longevity, which is both, keeping it warm, keeping it clean. The washing facility, the truck wash is very important, and keeping it out of the sun and the cold.
And just to add one more thing to that. So the way our trucks are currently bid, if we were to have this type of facility, we could actually, and this is going to sound a little crazy, but we could actually change our bid specs, which would actually make the trucks cost a little bit more. However, the next time you cycle them out, you can almost recycle part of the truck. So if we went to stainless steel bodies, then you would only be replacing the cab and chassis in out years. Right now, it doesn't make sense to do that because we're changing them out so frequently. But if we get the longevity that we need out of the cab and chassis, then when you start looking at, okay, well, the next time we replace this vehicle, we'll just get a cab and chassis. And it does make sense cost-wise to then just take that, the stainless steel body and transfer it over to it, because you'll save that money in essence. So there's other ways that you can also have a more of a cost savings. And I kind of did that at my previous employment, so.
I have a question.
Sure.
That's okay, Madam Chair.
course.
So this size storage that you have is calculating the town, say, growing to 36,000 people, more roads, more, do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
It's calculating the enough vehicles that you're gonna need to be able to serve the town in a good fashion.
Yeah, you want to speak a little bit to that, to the additional space that we factored?
Sure, we have factored in some additional space. It's a big vehicle storage building. That's the big box at the
Right.
bottom. The smaller yellow box is the vehicle
I
maintenance
understand.
shop. And it's a center aisle, so you drive in one end and out the other. The advantage there is that the trucks park in at an angle. They have to do minimal backing out to leave, and none of them block another vehicle. So there's kind of an operational, flexibility there. You don't have to move 3 trucks to get the 4th one out. The amount of space, I think we've probably got about a 10% additional
Yeah.
square footage in there for growth. And
Yeah.
it's growth not only in the number of vehicles, but in the inevitable increase in size of vehicles and equipment and accessories that.
And other ways that we looked at that as well, Deb, that's an excellent question, was, all right, so if our fleet was to grow by 2 more, currently we have spots allocated for the loaders. So in essence, down the road, the loaders could park out in the, like Dan said, because they're always the first ones out of the building to load the trucks. So those could park, on the common area or the throughway and accommodate for those future trucks. It'll impact the operational efficiency
So
a little bit, but still provides that
Before
long-term
you get
planning.
that extra trucks that you will need,
Right.
is that space going to be able to help you out in another way? In other words, will that space be able to house the extra mix of whatever, or house something until other things come into play? I'm just
Yes.
saying, in case the whole thing doesn't go.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a plan? So I guess plan, E,
Yeah.
in case things don't work, what do we
Yeah.
do? And say you just got phase 1 for now.
Yeah.
With that extra space, and how long do you think you would have before you would have to be looking at getting those other trucks? I know it's multiple questions, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But one more. Ready?
Yeah.
Then we'll be done. And
No, sure, go ahead.
the last thing is, do we already do some sort of undercoat treatment? I know that I've talked to a couple other DPW guys, and they told me that there's this magical stuff you spray underneath, and I'm a girl, I'm sorry, magical stuff you spray underneath that help prevent with the salt and the rusting and stuff
Yeah.
like. Are we doing that or not?
We aren't.
I didn't hear you, David.
We are not.
Okay, thank you.
There's a variety of reasons for that, and I'll just be short because there's a lot yet to go through. And a lot of those spatial needs still is something that, I've been working with the town manager about. And, obviously, we're going to want to form a committee and go through this. It's a very thick project and whatnot. And we're going to want to get into a lot of those specificities. But in regards to protection, stuff like that, first of all, we need to maintain our fleet a lot better than what we currently are in order to do that preventative maintenance.
So if you got this place, you would do that?
Yes, I mean, I think it would be a component to preserving the fleet, yes, because then because the thing is you spray the stuff on, and as soon as you get a first nick in it, you've already damaged that surface, so if you're not washing it frequently enough, you're not keeping the dirt and things off of it, then you're putting a preventative mechanism in place that you're not going to get your return on investment for, because you're not doing the other 3 things or 4 things you should be doing in order for that to really get you payback that you're looking for, if that makes sense. So, yeah, thank you.
Right, and just one point is that vehicle storage building is the biggest single component of this plan. It's fortunately also the least expensive space that you can build. So we tend to recommend that you build as much of that as you can, because adding it later will be much more expensive. And you'll get a lot of value out of it early on. And we lay it out knowing what the fleet looks like now and what we understand Dave's operation to be. But what we don't do is recommend painting the lines on the floor until he's gone through a couple of seasons. And the way the building is used is going to be different in the summertime from the fall, from the winter, by a lot. And we know that the total square footage is what you need. How it's arranged and how it's managed, month by month is going to develop.
Well, I'm glad to hear you have a plan for that extra space, as opposed to it
Oh,
just
yeah.
sitting there waiting for something to happen.
It will get used.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And as Dave knows, and as you can see from the existing photos, there's a tendency to accumulate stuff. Building a new facility is a great opportunity. It's like moving house. It's a great time to get rid of stuff that you really don't need.
All right.
So this is phase 1. Again, that's the biggest chunk, and that really gets the major operational pieces established. And then we go to, and there's an aerial view of what that would look like.
So just so that you understand, because looking at it, it all looks shiny and new, but essentially, the largest building up at the top right corner there is essentially, that's the new mechanics bays, the large storage facility in the back, the connection to the existing and expanded employee quarters, if you will, and start to bring in some of that circulation around the back of the property. Everything else to the left is pre-existing and still there at this point.
Right, and we're showing a fair amount of paved area, and that's really part and parcel of controlling the site, the stormwater, and making it environmentally appropriate and in conformance with the regs. So pretty much everything to the left of that center line is existing, and everything except for the small admin building to the right of the line is new. And that's phase 1. Then phase 2 takes another step, which is to add a wash bay to the north side of the existing garage and shop, and also to relocate and prepare for a future larger fuel island, but to relocate the existing above-ground fuel system into what will be the final location of a larger permanent one.
And initially, when we started this process a year ago, the admin portion of the building and the connection to that facility was going to be in this phase. But again, we're already really starting to, deal with some cramped quarters down there as it is, and now with the deputy director coming in as well, it's going to be even tighter. So we kind of moved it forward. It seemed to make sense too, and especially in the winter operations when we have upwards of 20 plus people in there, it's just, the facilities aren't adequate.
So that's phase 2 at this point, and that is almost everything except the northern portion of the site. So we go on to phase, here again is an aerial view of phase 2, and the only real difference is that addition of the wash bay to the north side of the existing maintenance shop. Then we go on to phase 3, where we replace the 2 older salt sheds with a newer one, and that's got both an enclosed area and covered bins on the sides for bulk materials. So this is all the sand, gravel, other, cold patch materials that are used almost year-round and are a whole lot better if they're covered rather than snow-covered.
Yeah, so operationally, what we would do is kind of flip things around a little bit. So we would build a salt shed that is close to what our annual usage is. We use around 3,600 tons of salt. We'd look to construct approximately a 3,000-ton shed. And the gray building at the the top of the map, we would then use that for our salt sand mix. Because at the beginning, I showed you that pole barn, and it's, every event we're out of salt sand mix. So we would then be able to store close to 1,000 yards of salt sand mix in there, and that would eliminate that having to process it in the middle of storm events. So.
And again, are you planning for future growth? I mean, will this be able to expand a bit if you need to?
So if you have
Or
3,000 tons on hand, that's sufficient. You
For-
really,
For now, but,
no, I mean, even in the future, because you can order it in and it's streaming in as you're using it too. The problem we have now is we have less than, the 2 barns combined gets us to about close to 2,000, a little over 2,000. So we cycle them back and forth on how we use them. And because of the orientation of the way they are and whatnot, doesn't work well with loading and what have you. But the 3,000 tons should be enough. And if you did have to expand it, I suppose you could, but.
I was just making
Yeah.
sure you left a little space
I
there
agree.
that,
Yeah.
I mean,
if
yeah, I
you
mean,
had to,
can't-
you do.
I can tell you it'll
Yeah.
be sufficient for the next 15 to 20 years, but I mean, depending on the rapid growth of the town and what have you, I mean, yeah, at some point you may want a 5,000 ton shed, but,
But it really, the salt shed size tends to track along with the number of miles
Right.
of roads that you're taking care of.
correct,
So that grows generally pretty slowly.
right.
And different, but there are many other factors, obviously, availability of resupply and, strategies of salt reduction, which may come into play as well. So in this phase, the other thing we add, in addition to the new larger salt shed, is a new fuel facility. So that would replace the existing one with a larger underground tank, gas and diesel.
And it would put it all in one location, so the idea here is with, I'm trying to use this project to also help out with some of the other stressors that the town is experiencing right now. Logistically, where the diesel and gas system is set up now behind Central Fire Station, it creates a little bit of a crowding problem over there. It is an above-ground system. And so what we were really trying to do here was put it all in one location, introduce a type of fuel management system as well, so that we know exactly how many miles is on each truck, how much fuel is going into it, what department is it, it'll help with financing and whatnot, for billing out and things of that nature. But everybody would be here on this one site, and it would all be, meet all the today's codes and requirements and have you, and it would free up a lot of valuable space that the fire station would appreciate as well, so.
I'm
And
happy
the
using
location
that.
of it is set really to the front of the whole facility.
Right.
So that the back of the yard where the heavy vehicles are circulating, particularly during storms, is separate and can be gated off. So this could be left open 24/7 for any town vehicle to come into, but the yard essentially would be locked down behind a fence at that time.
And we could use this to wash the police cars as well?
The wash bay that you were talking about? Yeah, I mean.
And I know the fire has their own,
Yeah,
but-
we can, when it comes to designing the wash bay, we can configure it to, do regular cars all
I'm
the way
just
up to.
thinking the
large
shelf
engine.
life of police
Yeah,
cars would
yeah.
also benefit
Agreed.
from this.
And a lot of thought, to the degree of specificity with the mechanics bay, I know we kind of glossed over that part of phase 1, but there is a strong desire for at least from the fire perspective, for them to be able to come down and use a large bay for them to do their work, as opposed to sometimes when you drive by Central Fire, you might see them out there with, you know, the engine all apart in front of the station and what have you. So we're talking about that too. We're trying to plan for those needs as well.
So it would be multi-purpose for
Yes.
all of the departments?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
There's even some storage spatial needs that we're trying to identify. And as we work through this with a building committee on this, we'll get some real clear identities. But we already kind of backed in a little bit as I was working with these gentlemen on that as well. So again, trying to fix some of the other stressors that the town is experiencing. Just one that we really didn't mention, but if you follow the driveway up into the property, and you'll see where that first gate is, to your immediate right, there's a little box right there. There you go,
Thank
right
you.
there. Yep, exactly.
I keep trying to point.
And so,
I just did it for the people watching.
yeah, what I'm envisioning there is an area, again, Dan was alluding to it, that area right in that whole circular area in front of the building is something that's gonna be safe, it's open, it's available, it's 24 hours a day. You know, people will be coming down, you know, fire, police, us during snow events will be there fueling and whatnot. But there really should be an area where residents can come and get their salt sand mix, as opposed to out on a dark street corner around town. That raises some concern for me. I mean, some of them, like we have here at Town Hall parking lot, I'm okay with stuff like that, but there's a lot of these locations where we're borderline encouraging people to pull over in dark hours of the night and get a 5-gallon pail of sand salt mix that's,
Well, I have to tell you, it has come in handy for me on Hardy and Stonehenge because of that hill with ice, that it was right there, and I could.
I can appreciate the convenience of it, but whether or not if, you know, we should be encouraging that kind of activity on a roadside in the winter where it's ice, and I'd rather them be in a well-lit parking lot that's clear and free and devoid of snow and ice and be able to get their pails and, you know, planning before an event comes and whatnot.
Right.
So-
Well, I think in the consideration, maybe some of the more slippery, dangerous, where people normally get stuck, would be just there, just because it's happened to me.
I agree. I understand how.
You're not going to
these-
have it in your car.
I agree how these things come about. You know, back when people were driving Edsels and things like that, and there's the steep hills and everything. I remember my grandmother's house quite fondly down in Methuen. She had a steep hill, and they had those barrels there so you could. But in today's world of all-wheel drive, all-steer, radial tires, you know, and everything else, I don't think we should be encouraging, you know, residents or anybody for that matter to be getting outside their vehicle in slippery situations and trying to take care of. That's what our job is
But
to
they're
do.
going to have to get out of their vehicle if they're stuck there.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
I know, I'm
I don't
just
want to get into a
saying.
debate about
I
it.
was just going to say,
It was
agree
a
to
nice,
disagree.
yeah, it was a nice area that I thought could, you know, everything I try to do is all around safety, so. But sometimes
understand.
convenience suffers for that, but.
I didn't think it was convenience. Go ahead.
All right, moving on.
Okay. So again, that's phase 3.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. That's pretty much all done except for one small piece. So now you see the fuel island with a canopy over it for all-weather operation and convenience.
Yeah, and you can really see the detention, you know, basin at the back of the lot there as well,
Yeah.
so.
That's a concept. We're not sure if it'll be one or multiple ones, or it may even be all underground. There's still work to be done to characterize the soils and the groundwater and how we manage that. And then we go on to the very last phase, which only has a little tiny difference. I think you can spot it. It's at the north end of the admin wing, and it's just a single extension of that building for additional office space.
So that would bring, you know, the entire DPW and engineering and our admins that are here all under one roof, and really turn this into a place that is a public facility where we're open and welcome to the public. You know, any environmental engineering issues and things like that, and solid waste, they can come down and we can deal with those things here, and that frees up space, and we're, you know, under some of those issues with this building as well. So that was kind of that concept on that as well.
And we did get the flagpole on.
And we got the
And we're going to do
flagpole.
the flagpole in phase 1. But
I'm a stickler for having
Gotta
a
have
flagpole
that.
at a
Gotta have
public
that.
facility, which we do not currently have, so. But the idea is, again, is to make it a real public welcoming facility where I can even envision someday, you know, hosting the household hazardous waste day down at this property, you know, taking that away from the Laffer and whatnot, and the impact that has on the town. We could certainly create some circulation on the site that would work well for things of that nature, and other safety issues. I mean, the idea is, through the whole project, is to really create I don't want to say that we're being unsafe, but we're certainly pushing the marker on some areas, but this would really take any doubt out of our mind on the safety issue. That's usually the most paramount thing in my mind anyway. Certainly the preservation of our equipment, as it's becoming incredibly expensive. I've just seen it jump year after year after year. It seems like it's moving the market another $10,000. The first year I was here, the first truck that we bid out was $197, and the last one we just did was $237. Give or change a little bit there, but and then the obvious, just streamlining the operation itself. You know, we're wasting critical, valuable time when our equipment should be out on the road treating, rather than sitting there in the queue waiting while we're producing salt sand mix on the fly in the middle of an operation. Among a million other things that I could go on and on about, just, you know, having to move something out of the way to get all the way to the back of a trailer and then pull it out, and then at the end of the day, you have to come and put everything back in, so your crews aren't out working, as opposed to moving things around 2 and 3 times a day in order to they gotta work in order to go to work. So those are some of the things that we're trying to streamline in the operations as well. And I think we might be towards the end of the slide at that
may
point,
be
right?
it, yeah, let's see. It says thank you, there.
There you go.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was very thorough. I just have one question. I know in your little report that you gave us, Dave, it says several years. Do you think each phase would be a year? I'm just curious.
So, yeah, in the phasing that we did, we looked at, you know, taking a year between each one of the phases. So the first year would certainly be, you know, a year plus to complete that between the engineering and everything else, and then construction. And then, you know, having a year breather in there, I believe is what we did, and then, you know, the next phase. And I think that's something that perhaps, you know, even the committee will kind of gauge that on what the best approach is to that. But yeah, we did, through each of the phases that you just saw, we had about a year in there, understanding that there's obviously, we're not the only challenge of things going on in the community. Again, DPW, in my 30 years of doing this, we're always the last to the party, but we also don't want to be the party either. So we're understanding of other needs of the community, and that's why even in this project, I'm trying to incorporate some other spatial needs of this building or other departments that they need in a project like this, where there could be things stored here. Perfect example today is the police department rolls out all those barriers for the Old Home Day and whatnot, and, you know, they're stored way remotely on the other side of town at their gun range, and perhaps that's something that could be more, you know, placed here and at the very least put under a canopy, so that the UV, I mean, those things are made of plastic, so the UV's just not, you know, chewing them up while they're sitting up at the gun range. So just things like that we tried to think along the way as we were putting this all together.
Yep, agreed. Anybody else have any questions for the presentation?
Do we want to talk the scoring sheet at
Yeah,
this point?
absolutely. Yep.
So you give us some dollar values here, and, if, you know, just going at the total is $47 million. What's the total value today of all the town town-owned property, roughly?
Of all town-owned buildings?
Yeah.
That's a great question, Len. I wouldn't want to speculate and just jump off the top of my head. but
Because, you know, I think
we
it
could-
matters if this is adding 10% to the inventory, or if
Yeah.
it's adding 50% to the inventory.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's the safe answer.
Okay.
But
Maybe you could just
we could eventually get that to
take a
you.
look at it and let me
Yeah.
know. I'm just
I mean,
kinda curious.
I have the numbers in my head, some numbers that float to the surface on
Yeah.
what we built them at, but that's certainly not what their value is today, replacement value and things like that. Yeah.
But you understand the question I'm trying
Yes,
to answer?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's it for me.
Yeah, okay. Would it be helpful, Kelly, for the public to know what they rated themselves at, or no? Otherwise, we can just rate them.
So you can, Dave can speak to how he rated
Sure.
and why, and
That would be
then
helpful.
you should discuss as a committee either now or you can wait until the final scoring meeting. That's at your discretion. But I think it would be helpful to have Dave talk through his reasoning since he's the one that did it.
Definitely, I agree.
Sure. So, first one, hits it the most is safety. I think that everything about this facility improves a wide variety of things. It improves safety for our employees. It provides safety to people that come to the facility, whether they're, a contractor or somebody making a delivery. Obviously, if we're out there doing our job, it will improve the community as a whole, safety and the ability to get school off, safely and perhaps even a little sooner than later. Although most people want to have a snow day, I understand that. But more importantly, my big mantra is, red and blue follow yellow. And whether if that's snow or, we had a couple large trees come down this morning, if we don't get out there and get the roads open as quickly as we can, then they're delayed in their response to things that really are paramount as far as their response times are concerned. And that plays right into the next one about, deficiency in service. I wish I had incorporated in this presentation of how we do that mixing of the salt sand, and I probably will for the town council when I talk to them about this. I know I did once before, but it really shows all the trucks sitting there in queue waiting for that sand salt mix to be prepared. And you can see the sleet coming down. We should be out on the roads applying it rather than waiting for the process of it. It really slows us down. We have in this plan certainly forecasted to the best of our ability what we think for the needs are and for future growth. And Deb, you asked questions pointedly on that too, so that was good to have that conversation for the purposes of tonight. Cost savings are always tough to measure up to because we're going to be building, we don't have an existing facility to kind of say, well, if we do this, there's that as far as a savings is concerned. But obviously with the design and we'll keep all those things in mind about, and you've seen, one thing is loud and clear in some of those renderings, there's an awful lot of roof up there that could be used for solar and whatnot. So we can certainly, look into that type of a planning and the design and what have you. We did talk about that a little bit as well. And even potentially, one of the hot topics right now is that we're not accepting the crude waste oil anymore. And that's something that we could explore about possibly bringing back and then having it at our site. And kind of, because we ended that. I don't know if these gentlemen know that yet, but we're not receiving it now. So, supports job development, increase the tax base. Well, I don't know. I kind of just went lower on the end of it. I mean, I don't think it really does anything in that regard, but it's going to help with whatever development is certainly going on in town, in my opinion. If our service level increases or is certainly more efficient, it'll support that. I think the next one's fairly self-explanatory. And then matching funds, you want to talk a little bit about that at all, or you want?
Pass that to Mike.
Mike?
Because we keep a close eye on potential available grants and other assistance.
Yeah, and
It's a moving target.
sure, but especially even for solar and things of that nature. You want to
Yeah, sure.
touch some good points
So-
on that?
Yeah, so the matching funds, the grants, we are regularly following grants. We have grant writers in our company that they'll help you identify the grants that are most appropriate for you and best worth your investment in securing those grants. Renewable energy and state There's some funds out there for that. Sometimes for Fuel Island and other things as well. So there's a few of them out there. They usually come in smaller pockets, but we can help you secure those.
Yeah, I think my scoring there essentially, thank you, Mike. I think essentially my scoring there was just a middle of the road. You know, I've seen plenty of them, and Mike just touched on a little of them. You know, this is a large scale project, but every penny's going to help, and I think it's worth exploring it anyway, rather than just saying, well, we're just going to do what we got to do. So that was kind of my take there.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Just to go on what you were saying about solar, and I know you and I have talked about
Yeah.
the net zeroing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that if you had those solar panels, and I don't know what that cost obligation would be, would that help you? And I don't know what your electric bill is down there. And I know I've seen a lot of electric trucks and things. Probably not useful for you, but anyway, do you think you could get your building down to net zero? Because that would justify what you were just saying about cost savings.
Yeah.
And including the wear and tear on the police would help you justify to show like, okay, we have to return even, for being able to wash them and for the fire trucks maintenance, you want to kind of like put all of that into your calculation when you're at the next presentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that helps you at all.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the thought, and that is exactly kind of how we're thinking, is anything to offset, because a facility of this size, and then we're obviously going to be using it a lot more than we currently have the ability to. And so we want to do all that we can to offset, those new challenges that we have with a facility of this size.
So I would build upon what Deb was just saying. I think the results in long-term cost savings, I think that's a 5. My 2 cents.
Well, I'm gonna write that down.
And the other numbers, they make sense the way you develop them, but I think there's a significant opportunity for cost savings down the road.
I think so too, especially with efficiency. I was gonna mention
Yeah,
that because you have so much workarounds that you have to do. It's ridiculous. So I think this would be very efficient for your time.
Yeah, I always hedge on the side of caution with that, where you say, well, we're going to have a savings. If you're going to take a facility that we don't even have right now and build that, so your costs just went through the roof, but you're going to try and soften it. So I understand what you're saying. Before I say we're going to have a cost savings,
Do with
Do
it,
the homework.
take my advice, as you want to, but I just think it's
Yeah.
it's a win for the town, for efficiency, for vehicle longevity.
yeah,
So,
The other thing, show your cost savings on the metal roof.
yeah,
Because as you know, that's like a issue that comes up like what?
Yeah.
Every other year, we need a new roof.
Right.
Show the cost savings on such a roof and how long you're gonna get out of it, and that won't happen. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I do. The geography for us plays in our favor, so.
Just trying to help.
We're a little bit off the road where we don't have to have, we don't have to put so much into architecturally looking as pretty as this campus is. But nonetheless, to your point, yeah, let's look at metal roofs that, have 50-year lifespans and whatnot, and, but still make it look attractable, when you're entering in, if it's gonna be a more public welcoming facility, so I get it, yeah.
We do tend to design these as 50-year buildings. Now, that doesn't mean that every component is gonna last 50 years. You're gonna change light bulbs and probably mechanical equipment and things, but the fundamental building is designed to be durable and attractive, not over the top, but attractive and to last. And a metal roof, is almost always
Yeah.
part of what we do. One other element that, just to keep in mind, is that having a state-of-the-art facility that's safe and attractive is gonna help with attracting and retaining employees. And that's not a small thing. Dave, you know that.
No, it's
you know,
not.
If you want to have a few qualified mechanics to service potentially the whole town fleet, you need a state-of-the-art facility, because otherwise they're going to go work for any number of dealerships.
And that's an excellent example of the type of employee, too. We don't even have a lift. So everything we're doing is on the concrete floor, and which is hard on joints and everything else for that matter. So, yeah.
Well, I think it would be much easier if our committee decides on what we want to change from theirs instead of going through one by one. Is that okay to save time?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. I agree completely with your assessment. I would change your 4 to a 5, and then I'm good to go. What about you?
I'm on.
Anything? You're on board? Okay.
Except for my salt.
Okay, so that would be a total project score of 26. And I decided to do this now instead of later on, because I think as a committee, in our first meeting, we discussed that we would do it in this order, because it's fresh on our mind, and then at the very end of these sessions, we can rank them from the points from there. So, that's that, and
Do
then.
we need a motion or anything like that, or
That's a
just?
good question.
You don't need a formal motion. I've
Okay.
taken notes as well.
Perfect.
And then, like I say, we'll have like a final meeting where I'll have the full spreadsheet with the totals, and you guys can confirm that that's what you want to recommend to the planning board for their public hearing process, and that's where they'll make official motions and recommendations.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, now moving on to the Reverend Morrison Meeting House, and Mr. Town Manager, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, at this point, that project is not ready to go forward, and I'm pulling that from the CIP list at this time. A whole lot of decisions have to be made as to what's going to happen with that building, and we're in that process of doing that right now. The council really needs to weigh in and give us guidance as to where we're going to go. Obviously, that was added here before I got here, but there's a lot more work that has to be done on that before we're ready to go. So I'm asking that be removed at this particular time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep, I agree.
You okay with that?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
On to other business. Do we have any other business?
Our next meeting, you wanna tell people when that is? and-
Sure. When is our next meeting?
August 25th.
25th, okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And that will be for the kindergarten?
That has a town manager department project on there related to the OpenGov software programming. And it has the SAU for the school and the full day K as well.
Okay.
Is that our
Thanks
last
again,
meeting?
guys.
Oh, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh, is that our last meeting?
Yes.
The next one?
That keeps us in line with allowing the planning board to have their initial work session on the, your recommendations, and then have their public hearing and get everything to the BudCom and council before the budget kickoff.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn? Oh,
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, everyone say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, guys.